So she rushes me over to the ER. We take me into the ER. I pass out in the ER with a blood oxygen of 60, and I wake up a month later in ICU. I They come walking, running, hurrying in like, oh my gosh, Mr. Lewandowski, you're not supposed to be here. And then over a period of days and weeks of multiple medical professionals coming to visit me, things were being told to me like this: Mitch, nobody comes back from where you were at. You are the once in a lifetime miracle that we hope and pray for. There's no reason why you should be here. Of what you had going on, you may never walk and talk again, so keep an open mind. So
Well, we go back a ways, Mitch, riding buddies. We've had a lot of great conversations, and I was looking forward to getting you on this new Bold Journeys podcast, because you have absolutely been on a bold journey. And I want to share that with our listeners. And it's been a bold journey in a variety of different ways, Mitch. And, of all my friends, you're one of the friends who, has been through maybe the most of what I've seen in enduring challenges in life. But also just your spirit and attitude and faith in getting through those is really remarkable. So I want to take us through that. But let's start at the beginning, Mitch. Little Mitch growing up. Walk us through that. What was it like? What shaped you growing up? Some memories that you have of the early years of Mitch.
yeah, thanks for asking, Rob, and it's definitely a privilege and an honor to be on this Bold Journeys podcast with you, and greatly appreciate your friendship. So, growing up for Mitch, I grew up in Southwest Michigan, single parent family. My mom walked out on my dad when I was 2 years old with the shirts on our back,
Wow.
20 bucks in her pocket, and a half tank of gas. I had a what we would refer to as a real American hero dad, or lack thereof. And she just said, if we stay here, something's going to happen bad, and I can't do that to my kids. So she walked out the door. So we grew up in a single parent household. We were at the, I used to say that we were so poor they turned the sunlight off on our street because we didn't pay the bill. The poor people came to us and felt sorry for us and gave us stuff. So we were really at that bottom end, and I didn't realize it at the time because life was simple. We didn't have a car till I was 9, a TV or a phone till I was probably like 12, and that was just the world that we lived in. But two things happened. Number one, during that time, my mom, probably when I was like 4 or 5 years old, she'd been collecting S&H green stamps and got a lot from her friends. And with that collection, she turned it into the S&H store to get me a bright, shiny, brand new 20-inch single speed Schwinn bicycle. And Rob, that thing was like handing me $1 billion. It was the most valuable thing in the world. And it shaped a lot of my life, which you know about through cycling. But just experiencing that thing of value and the freedom that it gave me, because it didn't have any freedoms around me. Our idea of going on vacation was riding our bikes to the lake on summer vacation. Yeah, it was going on vacation. Spend the whole day there.
How old were
Uh,
you, Mitch, when you got that bike?
4 years old. I
Four
got a
years.
picture of that when I was on training wheels, and I was such a boss. I had the black leather boots on, a pair of blue jeans on, and a t-shirt, and I was just rocking it, man.
Wow. Yeah, I was going to ask when you started your cycling, passion for cycling, and I guess that was it.
Yeah, it's been 55 years. It's hard to imagine that. I tell people that I'm 30, 29, but I've had the IQ and the maturity of about a 8-year-old,
Like most of us cyclists.
pretty much. Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw a Norman Rockwellian type of painting. It was a cartoon situation where there's this young boy looking up at his mom in the kitchen, and she's cooking. He's holding up a bike, looking up at his mom. He says, "Mom, when I grow up, I want to be a cyclist." She looks down at him and said, "Son, you're going to have to pick one or the other."
Find something else. Well,
Yeah, you have to pick
after
one or
you
the other.
got that bike, what were some other formative things do you think that shaped you?
Yeah, the next thing was when I was in my mid-teens and coming to the awareness that we didn't have anything, that we were truly at the bottom end of that socioeconomic spectrum. And I started realizing, friends of mine that I went to school with, their parents had nice cars, they lived in nice houses. Three of the houses that we grew up in are no longer there. There's a courthouse in one of the spots, there's an empty lot in both of the other spots. And I'm like, okay, they got stuff we don't. And so, not being the smartest guy in the room, I remember writing on my mirror. I was 15, 16 years old, and I wrote on my mirror, ask for the world, and if you only get a continent or two, you didn't do so bad. And it sent me on this trajectory of going out there and getting things, getting stuff. It was the pursuit of not being poor or the running away from not being poor, which was formative in a lot of ways, mostly negative when I look back at it, but I'll unpack that a little bit as needed. But yeah, I definitely went into the mode of I was not wanting to be poor anymore, and so the opposite of that was what was rich and making money. So it was a very much in my early career was an unhealthy balance of trying to run away from where I came from.
And chasing too much the dollar, the material things. What did that lead to? Did that lead to a crisis moment for you?
Yeah, a couple things. Number one is, and as you know, I'm an executive leadership coach. I work with owners of privately held companies all around the country, helping them be healthier versions of themselves. And early on for me, I was good at it. And as I got good at like making money, and first it was sales jobs, then it was sales management jobs, and had this career trajectory that pretty much everything that I touched turned to gold. My a CEO of a company I was involved in the 90s said, Mitch, you're my paratrooper. I can drop you in anywhere in the world and you're just going to turn it to gold. And which was true. But along that journey, what happened is I wasn't learning how to build healthy organizations, healthy people. I was the hub with a thousand spokes. I was the guy that could make it all happen. I could outwork, out effort. If there was a problem that needed to be fixed, I would fix it, but didn't include building the people around me or coaching or developing or all the things that I do now. So
Yeah.
got really good at doing that, drank my own Kool-Aid, did it again and again and again, and got, way up here, in business and economically. And then all of a sudden I realized there's something wrong with the Matrix. It's like when you see that 1999 first Matrix where the cat walks by and the guy's like, uh-oh. And Neil's like, what? It's like, it ain't good.
What what went wrong in that pursuit of Mitch and maybe pursuit of the finer things in life that you didn't have growing up?
Yeah, what's an well, the things that went wrong, unfortunately, were economic success and that all this stuff. I called it the Derek Jeter days. And in the world that we live in the culture that we live in, those external measures of success, the world tells you, look, man, you got it. You're a baller. You're making it. But what went wrong, one is, and you've heard a little bit about my faith journey, as I came to discover, that God has a greater plan and purpose for my life. I started to detach from that that whole everything's about having more and getting more. But the other thing was I'd sold a business in 2010. It was like my not first exit from some, I actually sold three businesses in 2010. And as I was exiting those, I'm like, something's not, the cat walked by. I was like,
Yeah.
something's wrong with this photograph. Something's wrong with this scene. I'm really, really good at doing this thing, but what is this thing really accomplishing? And I realized, yeah, it's not really accomplishing much in the big picture. And so there was a pivot or a shift that went on for me, and I referred to certain sections of my life that are books of my life. And as you know, recently I've had a whole book close in my life recently. But at that time, it was like closing the book of the Mitch can do it all and make it all happen, and going on this quest of okay, what would it look like to build something better? And what I refer to today, and I use this term to this day, healthy, whole, and profitable. So I went on this journey of understanding what is it like to build healthy, whole, and profitable businesses? What is it like to be healthy, whole, and profitable for me personally? What is that? what does that healthy and whole side of it look like? And then the profits could be economic profits. The profits could be just emotional or spiritual health. The profits could be fantastic relationships around you. The profits could be you're focused on helping other people, the least and the needy with your gifts, your time, talent, and treasure, not just, buying a new car or car collection.
or
May or
bike
may not know
collection?
anything about that. Shh, let's not go there now. That's
Not
kind
yet.
of touchy. I've got to go now. Not feeling very well. Hey,
Well,
I have fewer bikes in my basement now than I've had in a long time. Is that progress?
that's progress, Mitch.
All relative.
Well, let's, you know, that transformation that you went through, that discovery, I think plays a really big role in what I want to talk about next, which is really, the big life-changing moments that you've been through since I've known you.
Hmm.
And we've been friends for, I don't know, the last 10, 15 years since we got to know each other through cycling. But the three massive life-changing events that I saw you go through, COVID, a huge one. You had a flesh-eating disease that I thought was going to take you out. And then your most recent one, the tragic loss of your wife. But if you could just take us through maybe those three big life-changing events that you went through just briefly, and then I want to kind of unpack those and the grit and resilience that I saw you show
Yeah.
to get through those.
Yeah, so for your audience, I just want you guys to know that I completely suck at dying. So I found that out four
Despite
years
multiple
ago.
attempts.
Yeah. When I ride, and Rob's been with me up in the mountains, when we do descents, I just tell everybody, hey, listen, don't follow me.
I don't even try anymore, Mitch.
But I have this term called safety second when it comes to being up in the mountains. Probably have a fairly high risk tolerance, which is not the best idea. Do not attempt this at home, kids, or when you're not at home. Anyway, getting back on track. Um, so 4 years ago, a couple months plus 4 years plus a couple months, I got like a lot of people, I got COVID. And I had COVID. I was at home for about a week, and we were just watching it. And my brother-in-law, who's a doctor, said, "Hey, if it gets to the stage, let's address it, but let's keep an eye on it." So just cruising along at home, was going back to see the doctor on I think it was a Monday. My wife's taking me to to the doctor's office. We're going there, and I'm really not feeling well. And we pull into the parking lot, and I said, "I need you to take me to the hospital right now." And she goes, "You don't want to get out?" I said, "I can't get out. So I need you to get to the hospital right now." So she rushes me over to the ER. We take me into the ER. I pass out in the ER with a blood oxygen of 60, and I wake up a month later in ICU. Where am I? Had very vivid dreams. I was in Singapore when I got pulled out. It's like getting pulled out of the Matrix. I feel like I'm on the Nebuchadnezzar, and I have this group of people rush into the hospital room, and I remember it like it happened yesterday because it's such an imprinted memory in my life. They come walking, running, hurrying in like, "Oh my gosh, Mr. Lewandowski, you're not supposed to be here." And then over a period of days and weeks of multiple medical professionals coming to visit me, things were being told to me like this: Mitch, nobody comes back from where you are at. You are the once in a lifetime miracle that we hope and pray for. There's no reason why you should be here. Of what you had going on, you may never walk and talk again. So keep an open mind. So yeah, and I'm completely, not just atrophied, but I was completely emaciated. We've probably all seen and had to have seen pictures of Auschwitz survivors, and we've seen Auschwitz non-survivors, the bodies in the grave. My body looked like a body in the grave in Auschwitz. All it was skin, hanging off bone, and nothing. So I was just a skeletal sack of skin, and the idea of me recovering at all was not even on the radar. So yeah, so you may walk again, you may talk again. We don't know because you're a unique case because no one's been where you're at. I had COVID, MRSA, pneumonia, a lung infection, a punctured lung, and something else. I had like five or six things, all life-threatening, all at the same time. My wife was on advanced directives, funeral, arrangements, the whole nine yards, and I just kept drifting, like this list, and I would, like this. Then all of a sudden, I pop awake in this hospital room. I had 22 tubes, I think, connected to me. And anyway, I just want to let that set there for a moment.
Yeah, Mitch, and I remember so many of us in the cycling community praying for you at that time and not knowing if you were going to come out.
So yeah, so I'm laying there. They've got me strapped to the bed. I can't now, mind you, I'm fully atrophied. So I'm looking down. I see that I'm strapped to the bed. I can't communicate, but I'm kind of just looking at this, and the nurse says, "Oh, it's for your own safety." So in my mind, so I knew there might have been hope. Well, there's not much hope for me, but I'm visualizing me like from like a like a Mission Impossible scene where Ethan Hunt's breaking out of the hospital and he's running to the fire exit down and across the parking lot. Like, what am I going to do? Run away?
You can
So,
barely move.
about 2 weeks in ICU, get transferred over into a room. They're trying to get me into intensive rehab. It's the beginning of September. The 18th of September, I'm able to make a sound with it was just a whisper, but I'm able to make a sound and tears of joy. Same day, I'm able to get my feet on the floor. They have to hold me up, but I actually have some weight bearing on my feet on the 18th of September. 2 days later, they finally get me into intensive rehab. And okay, my goal, the new Matrix movie is coming out. Not that it was good or not, but that's irrelevant. I hope I can see it. It's coming out at Christmas. So my goal is to be home by Christmas to go see the movie with my buddies. So so 2 days into my first steps and my first sounds, they transfer me to intensive rehab. My goal is to get out. So it's the 20th September. Get out by Christmas and be able to wipe my butt and walk up the steps. Life goals, baby. Let's
Oh,
go.
yeah, those are important.
Yeah. 9 days later, Rob, they sent me home. They said, you don't need to be here anymore. You went from here to here in like this miraculous time. You're walking around the hospital in 6 days, which is true. And so I'm like, okay. And that took me home. It was surreal. Like we're driving along. It's literally like the scene from The Matrix when Neo's going, I used to eat there. They had good noodles. It was just like a dream, and it was it was like it was weird. Got home, go on this, get back into the world, whatever that world's going to be. A month, 28 days later, a month, I drive over. I'm able to drive now, mind you. Hey, come for a ride with me. I'll meet you there. I drive over to our local bike ride. I pull out a bike out of the back, freak everybody out, and I do a 28-mile bike ride. Mind you, 12 and a half miles an hour, but I was actually turning the pedals.
Yeah.
I only had a VO2 max of about oxygen capacity of about 2.5 liters at the time. But I did a 28-mile bike ride 28 days after coming home from the hospital.
Yeah, I think I was there, Mitch. That was just a miracle that you were out on your bike again so soon.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, Mitch, that alone would be a story, but let's add on to that number two. So
yeah.
I think this maybe is a couple years later, and you're out on your bike, and it starts with a bee sting. Is that right?
Yeah, well, let's insert into the middle of that. Well, I was sick. My wife's planning for my funeral. She starts not feeling well going into the spring, and she's going to see the doctor. And she had had cancer 10 years before. She had colon cancer. So that was a concern that we had. But she's going to see the doctor, and they're saying it could be this, could be this, could be this. Round robin, as it turns out, her cancer had come back. It was stage 4 colon cancer. So in 2022, she got diagnosed and she dropped off pretty quick. If we were going to have her by the end of the year, we would have been lucky. But at the November, December, she had a quick turnaround, had a 40% reduction in her tumors, and all of a sudden January rolls by and we uh, we went out on the tennis court and hit tennis balls. Like she's a little old lady scooting around, so I kicked her butt. I told her it's the only time I'm going to beat her. So that's going into 23. And then we roll into 24 and her cancer's, up, down, and it's in a descent into 24. I'm out on a bike ride, getting prepared. My goal was, um, so let's just give cycling context. A year into my recovery from COVID, I did three gaps, which is a 56 mile, 5,600-foot ride in North Georgia, which was huge bucket list. 2 years later, I do the full ride, six gaps, 103 miles, 11,200 feet of climbing. 3 years in, I'm going to go back and do six gaps. Now, mind you, she's ill and she's not doing great, but I'm trying to get some training in. I go up in the gaps, get a bee sting. It gets infected, kind of balloons up. Go see the doctor. They put me on some antibiotics. It dissipates. Great. I go out for another ride. It comes back, and all of a sudden, it just. Phew. I go to see my doctor. He goes, "Oh, that's bad. That's really bad. That's the worst I've seen, and it's MRSA." He goes, "We've got to get you into an infectious disease doctor right away." Sends me down the street to see his buddy right away. He's like, "Oh, that's really bad. That's the worst I've seen." Great. I know I have this competitive nature of doing all things with
Yes.
excellence, but I can skip. I would rather have be like, "Oh, here's an aspirin, go home." They put me on infusion antibiotics for a week. I don't get through a week. It's taken over the back of my leg. We got to get you in to see a surgeon. He says the same thing. Worst I've ever seen. We need to get you into surgery right away. They take off the back part of my left leg. It's like a 6 by 6 by 1 inch. They have to completely remove. I was right at the point of being able to losing my leg and or losing my life because the spread was going so quickly. MRSA's no joke. Come out of MRSA on 4 times a day infusions and a vacuum pack on the back of my leg. We're about 2.5 months. I'm able to be on the couch and just hobble around the house, sleep on my side, doing nothing. All the meanwhile, Iness is in cancer treatment. Now she's sick. She's trying to take care of me. I'm trying to take care of her. We're a fine batch there. But a very, very difficult time last year. And then to what you were alluding to, my wife's cancer did um, increase going into 2025, and eventually she passed away on July 24th of this year. We celebrated our 20-year anniversary in hospice, which was very sobering, to say the least. So, in all that time, though, I want to share with you and to your listeners, we did something that I would say is about as close to the center of where you can get on your first try. Now, I didn't want to practice this. It's not like going for a ride to get better. We said, okay, the reality is, cancer's probably going to take our life. Who are we going to be, and how are we going to engage this? And what we chose to do is we chose to really press into what the journey was really all about. I want to back up to when we first got married. When we first got married, when Todd Crumb and I did our wedding, a wonderful friend of mine who I'm supposed to call back last Friday.
Hmm.
Whoops.
If you're listening.
Yeah. Todd, I'm calling you after this. Um, we really pressed into the five words that we weren't thinking about a lot at our wedding ceremony, and that is "till death do us part." God's design for marriage, and even if you're not a person that's living in the faith, the marriage is temporary. The whole thing, and the girl could kiss the frog and became the prince popped out and they fell in love and lived happily ever after. It doesn't say that they lived forever after. It was ever after. So that till death do us part is one of us is going to leave before the other. And as we looked at that truth, I said, okay, God's design for marriage was for one of us to leave before the other. It's most likely going to be a nest because we've determined that I'm not really good at this. Let's really get into that. Let's really, 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 really go down that road together and be really, really close in the decline. And so that's what we did. For Ines, she had a lot of joy up until she wasn't able to talk anymore. She was looking up. She goes, "Hey, I'm going to have a new body." And again, this is for people that are living in faith. That's inspiring. That may be, fear-inducing for somebody who doesn't have faith. But she was just looking up. I'm going to have a new body. I get, all this illness is no longer going to be in me. So she was looking up. And then I was in the place where okay, I am to steward this relationship up until the very last breath. I'm going to love her. And I'm going to, as a pastor of my church said, you need to be in a place where you can hand your wife back to Jesus. Because then I realized, wow, this is temporary. She's on loan, and this is who I'm called to be. So as we both went into that space and into that place together, we weren't in a mad scramble of like, how do we desperately keep her alive? I said, hey guys, to a lot of my friends, you know, I asked the Lord for 20 more years, but he didn't give it to me. And even if he did, what would I have said at the end of 20 more years? Hey God, can I just have 5 more? And he grants it. After that, what would I say? Can I just two? Can I just have one more? Can I have another month, another day, another minute? A good thing you're never done with, but there is a season for everything. And we really, really, really stepped into that. And that gave us a lot of it really equipped us to go on that journey together and not come out of it like with like what is my life, and I can't live, and I'm a dumpster fire, and I have friends that are in that place that were walking
Hmm.
along the way. But it just put us in a very unique position that gave us something that we wouldn't have had otherwise. And so that's a long explanation of the journey that we went on. But I do want to, and I want to give pause because you've got the good set of questions there. So I just want to put it back to you, Rob, on where you want to take this.
Well, my question next for you, Mitch, is, I mean, it's such an incredible story, and the way that you approached it, um, the way both of you approached it with that attitude, not a lot of people find that approach and that grit and that tenacity and faith to get them through it. So what, we talked about your childhood, kind of the transformation you had in your life. Where did you really draw from to have the strength to get through it when
Yeah,
things multiple times here, everything's stacked against you and both of you?
yeah, yeah. Two things. Number one, because of a very difficult childhood upbringing where you had, the fight for survival was a normal operating procedure. That's the way you had to make life work. And again, I boomeranged. And it took me to an unhealthy place in my pursuit of business and money and things like that. But that um, developing the muscle of going through hard things. There's a great book called Do Hard Things. Highly recommend it to anybody who's going through anything.
Do hard things.
Do Hard Things. It's in my Audible. I can't remember the author's name, but that in my early childhood upbringing develop that muscle, and then going through the my Anessa's first journey of cancer, going through my COVID, going through Aness getting sick again, going through my MRSA, all these difficult things were equipping us to go through hard things. There's a Bible verse that I've used more than once, and it says, "Count it all joy, my brothers, for when you encounter trials, for trials develop perseverance, and perseverance proving character so that you'll be lacking in nothing." It doesn't mean that you rejoice in the difficult times, but to count those as to your advantage. The word joy, count this to your advantage because this is equipping you to be able to do this, to be able to do this, to do this. Rob, you and I, we've ridden 100 miles in the mountains before. We've also seen people that have shown up that haven't done the training, didn't have the fitness, and what happens to them?
Hmm. Yeah.
They can't make it. And to your audience, I would say press, you want to have grit, perseverance, and being able to go through difficult things. Press into the difficult things in your life. Pursue solving those things. Don't run away from them. A lot of times, I had an early morning meeting with some guys this morning. We were talking about, you know, what are the common things that men do when they're going through difficulties? It could be drugs, pornography, having an affair. They're just trying to numb the suffering. And what I say is there's a difference between pain and suffering. Pain is because something hurts. You're missing your wife, you're the pain of losing a spouse, the pain of recovering from a surgery. Suffering is when pain gets to your head. And when I shared this with somebody just on Friday, they're like, I never thought about it like that before. I go, think about it now. Suffering is when it starts to get to your head, it starts messing with your psyche. Pain is like Stockdale. Stockdale said it's going to take as long as it take. We're going to get out, but it's going to take as long as it take. So he went through a lot of pain at the Hanoi Hilton. But the people that gave up, they went into suffering space.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been through hell and back multiple times. But as I looked at that, it's like, yep, this is what's going on. And my words exactly when I was laying in the hospital bed, it's going to take as long as it's going to take, and I'm going to get wherever I'm going to get. So therefore, you know, okay. And the same thing when Ines was ill. You know, there's a 100% chance that she's going to make it or she's not going to make it through this. It's one of the two. And then one of us is going to leave first anyway. So who am I going to be during this time? Am I going to be like, oh, freaking out and then be like a hot dumpster fire and go on a rager in Vegas and check out emotionally from her and from my daughter who needs me the most right now? Or am I going to press into this and am I going to go as far as this needs to go till death do us part or she recovers and be completely there for her, for Abby, and for me? So that's my encouragement to your audience. You know, do hard things, press in,
In all
and
those cases, Mitch, it was a decision. You were making a conscious decision of how to handle this. Let it tear you up or actually lean into it and learn from it, grow from it, find joy in moments that you could. But were there
yeah.
ever those internal voices telling you to quit? Did you ever see that happening?
I was hearing internal voices, Rob. It's usually like, you need a new bike. You,
Yeah, not
you,
those
you,
voices, Mitch. You have those all the time.
I don't recall so. And if I did, Rob, I just don't recall so. And I think part of it is because I've went through multiple cycles of doing hard things, I was more equipped than the average person, using the bike analogy. Last year when I was really ill with MRSA, I called a friend of ours who's a coach and said, "Hey, Andrew, I'm on the couch. I'm on 4 times a day infusions. I'm on a vacuum pack. 6 months from now is the Seattle Classic Fuego XL 70-mile mountain bike race with 10,000 feet of climbing. I'd done that race 24 years ago when I was a whippersnapper. What would you think about taking me on as a recovery patient to get me there?" He said, "Game on." So I went from couch and not being able to turn a pedal. 6 months later, doing that race, completing it, it was to date at that time, it was the hardest day ever on a bike. But Rob, it was the richest day also. And I never thought about quitting. That's the thing. I said, yep, this is going to be hard. It's a two looper. I went around the first loop. Man, that course was hell. And I'm like, oh, only one more lap. I was done physically on the first lap. But the thing was, because I wasn't done mentally, it's going to be another loop of this. So how do I handle energy management? How do I do my fueling? But it was never this is getting to my head. So the pain pain only goes to a certain part, then you just don't hurt anybody. That's the great thing about pain. You know, I have cramps on the climb. Yeah. But it never got to my head. And I met a lot of people on the course that it had gotten to their head. And who shows up? Woo! Man, you could make money as a curse word solicitor on that course. But yeah, so no, I don't think it ever got to my head where I went into suffering space.
It's a funny thing about cycling, Mitch, that you and I enjoy so much, but we intentionally put ourselves in pain. We'll pay for an event to go put ourselves in pain, climbing hog pen and the six gaps,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But we're never suffering, to your point. It's an interesting thing because we are really leaning into it and somehow we're finding joy in the pain of
yeah,
cycling.
yeah. And I think also for your listeners, we live in I'm sure you have listeners all over the country. We live in Atlanta, folks. There's this great exodus at spring break. It's called 30A. Look it up. If you want to rob a house in Alpharetta, Milton area in spring break, no one's going to be there. Trust me. Everybody's at
The
30A.
town clears out.
Absolutely. Well, I have this term. It's called 30A life, where you got the white sandy beaches, you got your toes in the sand. It's
Yeah.
78 degrees. It's nice and sunshiny. If you're trying to live your life like that, you're not going to be able to handle the difficult times. But go and do hard crap. I did, I, because I have issues. I did 9 days in Bentonville recently where I did the Little Sugar mountain bike race. It was like 70 miles. And then the next weekend, there was a Big Sugar gravel race, which was 100 miles. The, the mountain bike race, I crashed 12 times.
Did you?
I spent 2 hours on the course with broken parts, like trying to put my bike back together. I was the last person on the course for a good part of the second half of the race with the course sweeper, guy named John. And I was the happiest guy he's like, dude, something's wrong with you because you're just way too happy for somebody who's, I had bruises on parts of my body that didn't even belong to me. I mean, like Child Protective Services was checking on me to, just make sure I was okay. It was bad. But during that whole time, it was all about I'd crash, I'd get up. John's like, probably broke something. That's just my ego. I broke a helmet, a head unit, a light, a chain, tore a tire, destroyed a tire. I mean, it's like it was an expensive day, parts wise. But that during that whole time, all I was thinking about is, okay, how am I going to get to the next part? Oh, look, only 32 miles to go. you know, only 25 miles to go. And as it was getting longer and longer and longer, my time on the course was probably an extra 4 hours, 3 hours. It
Hmm.
took me 10 hours to do the event. Should have
Yeah.
been about a 6 hour event. Those extra 4 hours drain your battery, the internal physical battery.
Yeah.
So I was completely depleted when I got back, but I was going across, I filmed it. I think you might have saw it on Facebook. I'm going across the finish line. I'm doing a selfie video. It's like, oh man, this is awesome. I'm talking to people. Hey, what's going on?
Well,
Headspace.
and that's what I love about you, Mitch, in these instances. And I know riding with you, you're so gregarious. You're out meeting everybody. You're finding so much joy. Can you imagine what these life experiences would be like if you hadn't had that moment earlier in life where you found you were on the wrong path and you hadn't found
Yeah.
your faith?
Yeah, I could see that I would be the 59-year-old version of Mitch that hadn't discovered the things that he had would be a probably more financially successful, arrogant narcissist, making it all about me, not thinking about the least, not thinking about the needy, not having a desire to serve other people, and really putting myself in the limelight and say, hey, look at me, let me tell you more about me. Yeah, that person, which was a component of where I was earlier on, I call it Mitch 1.0, would not have been a person that I would want to spend time with.
No, I probably wouldn't either. We would not be friends if you had stayed on that path.
You and I would not want to hang out with him.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. So we're going to have a little bit of fun, Mitch. I'm going to give you a
Oh,
rapid
we haven't
fire.
been having any fun anymore.
No,
We haven't been
we
having,
haven't had
what have
fun
we been
yet.
doing? The real fun begins now.
Now we're really going to have some fun.
Safety second.
Exactly. This is
Sheets away.
almost as good as descending down the gaps. All right. So I'm going to give you a phrase here, a question, and I want you to try to give me a one-word answer.
Blue. Oh, sorry. A little
Exactly.
too fast.
That's
A little too
that's
fast.
the
A
idea,
little too
right?
fast. Okay,
Okay.
good.
So first, give me one word that describes you in a storm.
Mm.
A
Oak.
storm of life we're talking about.
Oak. Oak.
Oak.
Ines used to say this to me. She got it from the movie Tombstone, which we watched and we liked, and it was referring to Wyatt Earp before he had his affair, by the way. In the beginning, so
Pre-affair.
the pre-affair. He's like, you Wyatt are an oak. And Ines, when we first watched that early on, she looked at me. She said, "You, my dear, are an oak." So one thing that she appreciated about me and a part of my DNA is steadfastness. I'm resolute in who I am, and when the difficulty comes, I'm not like the weeping willow. I don't bend over and the roots don't come out.
Yeah,
Oak.
I like it. What's your favorite failure
My
from your life?
favorite failure? Oh my gosh. One? Oh gosh.
We've already.
My fa my favorite failure, the one that comes to mind. Now there's multiple,
Mhm.
but the one that comes to mind is I was probably 26 years old. I had a very quick early rise in a company where I went from running duty free on cruise ships to run general manager to the the Fort Lauderdale Airport GM to the Chicago Aero. I'm like 25, 26 years old. I'm the general manager for the biggest airport in the world for all the duty free. Like, who lets somebody that age do that? I'm like, I wouldn't let me do it because I know who I am. It's like you wouldn't want me cooking for you. And then got promoted into global head of diplomatic and airline sales, and just had this big rise within this company. And I was outperforming everybody by like 2x. So everything I touched, that may have shared you, or I had another podcast where he said, "You're my paratrooper. I can drop you in anywhere." But my pride and my arrogance got me fired because I burned too many bridges. A leader with no followers is just taking a walk. And then you realize you're out on a plank and you walked yourself out there. And, you know, others are happy to give you the nudge because you pissed everybody off. So that was an early great failure that was really, really good for me.
Did you learn from that one or did it happen multiple times?
No, I that was a huge learning experience because not knowing it, I was just doing what I would do before. Just go in, do this, go in and do this. And I remember saying to my boss one day, she came to meet me. We were in Jamaica and we had she probably got to come have a little bit of intervention. And I was like, listen, Diane was her name. I'm going to step on a lot of people on my way to the top. It's like such an idiot. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's like, yeah, I could just great mistakes of the modern era. That'll be my book.
Well, yeah, and I've shared that one with you, Mitch. I took the same path and it did not work for me.
Yeah,
Not a good
yeah.
path.
Charlie
Um,
Sheen winning.
yeah. Here's one for you. What is one spiritual practice that sustains you?
Well, that's easy. Consistent morning devotional time.
Yeah, every morning?
I I don't do it every morning now, but when it's my normal morning practice. I can't say I do it every single morning. When I first discovered the faith, my very first friend, I was like a chicken coming out of the egg, little chickadee. Mom, I met this guy, Bob Felder, at this church I was going to in Miami. He just happened to be a campus pastor and was a very mature and equipped guy. And I just started hanging out with him. So I learned spiritual practices from him. And one thing he taught me was how to have a morning devotional time, how to pray for others, how to journal. I'm like, okay, I just wanted to learn, what it's like. So I would have a consistent every single day morning quiet time. So much so that on December 31st, 1999, I intentionally did not do it because I had become a believer in 1993 in February. I had had a like a 1 hour devotional time every single day up to then. That's not normal, which I found out from other people. But I intentionally missed it because I realized that it became a chip on my shoulder. I'm like, I was learning what it was like to be I was learning what a Pharisee looked like, and I realized I'm a Pharisee. I'm righteous. I got my phylactery fees. I give alms to the poor. I do all these things. Da, 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 da. And I said, okay, my spiritual practice has become like an anchor.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't honoring God or others because no, like, back to my beginnings, I'm going to outwork everybody. I'm going to out da,
Yeah.
da, 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 da. And I was applying that 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 ability to my spiritual life. And it's like, nope, got to set myself free. So it was one of the best things I could do for myself. It's like I
A
can no
slight
longer say I have a morning quiet time every single day, and so should you.
a slight overachiever in that regard. All right.
Wasn't helpful.
Okay, wrap it up with this one. What's your top speed descending on a bike?
I'm not sure if I want to answer that. Are any police officers on the line? Oh gosh, 68, 70 miles an hour, something like that. Heckin' fast.
Was that in the gaps?
I don't know. Let's put it this way. Before, we used to go down what's called the backside of Hogpen, which is now the front side. And before it was even repaved, it was not exactly a safe descent. And let's just say I wasn't the safest person in the room. So my goal was to go as fast as I could. not as safe as I could. Now, nowadays, I don't descend. I still go faster than most people, but before, when I was a little younger, I'd be like, I want to be at 9.5 tenths. Now, 8.5 tenths, 8 tenths is it's fun enough. But that was a very fast descent. And then I've done some things in I've had an opportunity to travel and I don't know, maybe 20 countries to ride, and I've been on some really steep places where you can get heckin' fast because it's steep. And I've descended things that are safer than hog pen. So you can go fast, but it's wide open.
Yeah.
Waimea Canyon uh, in Kauai. There's some places in Costa Rica where we've hit some extraordinary speeds on mountain bikes. Do not attempt that at home, kids. So,
Yeah, the gaps where we ride, Mitch, the hairpin turns make it especially exciting.
yeah, it's always good to slow down before you get to the corner, kids,
Yes.
so you're not a dart in the side of an oak tree, and then you realize you ran into me. Oh, this
Yeah.
is Mitch.
Yeah.
Remember, speed doesn't kills Rob. It's the stop.
It's the sudden stop, exactly. Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
hurts. Well,
yeah.
just to kind of wrap up here, Mitch, with some reflection. How has all of these life experiences shaped the way you show up for others? In your consulting practice, you're a consultant, fractional CEO. People play a really important role in people development. How has that changed your approach?
Boy, a couple things that come to mind. One is um, it's really developed my empathy and care for others. Like I've been through difficult things. I've also made some foolish mistakes and was blind to my own actions. So when I show up and I'm working with a CEO, I do a lot of executive leadership development one-on-one. I coach
Hmm.
teams. When I walk into the room, I'm kind of like the scene from The Matrix where Cypher sees the lady in the red dress and Neo's just like sees green stuff going down the screen. I often can see things pretty early on, organizational health issues, a toxic CFO or a CEO that's shiny object chaser. I can see it quick, but I'm very, very slow to engage that. And I've said, you know what? Be empathetic, meet these people right where they're at, and then let's get them to a place where they're teachable and coachable and want to grow. I actually had a CEO and a CFO call with two of my clients this morning. We were talking through some situations that they're going through, and the CFO was going to meet with one of their suppliers. We were talking about, this is the problem. I said, yeah, that's true. These are all the issue. But until they see what the problem is, it really doesn't matter what you say. You can't say, if you say, you're creating all these problems for us, that's all true, but they're not going to do anything. But if you can position it in such a way to get them to recognize they have a problem and you want to help, then they're coachable. Then we can make change. Just calling out bad behavior, like, hey, stop doing that, like the Bob Newhart show. Stop it! You know, no one's going to change. And so for me, it's not about getting them to see telling them to stop doing it and then getting them to no, because people do one of three things. They either lie to you, which is common. They give you temporary capitulation, okay, the behavior modification, or they just tell you to get lost, I'm not changing. But there is a fourth thing, and that is if they see that changing is a better calling, a better going to get them to a place where
Hmm.
they want to be, that they're healthier when you can
Yeah.
get them into that state. So that's that's been a big part of, who shows up, what who I am when I show up.
Last question. What's your advice to listeners who are in the midst of their own personal storm right now, going through something that's very difficult?
Yeah, a couple things come to mind. Number one, whatever you're going through, there is a difference between pain and suffering. And if you recognize, okay, you're going through a difficult thing, I probably let this get to my head. Being aware of that, hey, I'm in the mental headspace of, this is totally mess with me. Once you can recognize that, it's easier to then say, okay, this is going to be painful, but I'm going to get into this. The second thing is don't go through it alone. Get other people involved in your life. Get a coach, get a guide, get a mentor, get some people in your life that you're going to allow to speak into your life, to lift you up, to hold you accountable, to
Hmm.
say, hey, Bill, yeah, you're in a terrible spot, but, going to Vegas on a rager, whether you can afford or not afford to do it, isn't going to solve the problem. Just using that as an example, because people medicate in different ways. Checking out emotionally at the workplace just because you don't like your boss, what's that going to do? All that's going to do is it's going to support an unhealthy behavior for you. So when you go to your next job, guess who you're taking with you? You're taking you with you. So
Hmm.
you're taking you with you that checked out on your boss because your boss was a jerk versus, okay, who am I supposed to be here? Who am I called to be? Hey, when my boss says this, it makes me really feel terrible. Well, what would it be like to tell him? I couldn't do that. Well, actually, you can. This is called artificial harmony. This is called radical candor. It's a great book on that.
Hmm.
Tell people exactly when you say this, when you do this, this is how you make me feel. And I don't like feeling that way. So he's going to fire you. You were going to quit anyway. It's better to get fired for being honest than to leave pretending like everything is fine. Then the exit interview. Well, why did you leave? Well, I had a better opportunity somewhere. No, my boss was a bully.
Do you get into that level of
I'm
personal
so I'm
conversation?
so I'm so indirect.
Right. In business consulting, but you are a business coach as well. Do you get into some of those personal, or do you often get into those personal level conversations?
Well, heck yeah. And if
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm doing my clients a disservice. It would be foolish for me to just to bill somebody to play it safe.
Hmm.
And I've had people leave me because they didn't want to go there. They said they wanted to go there. We started going
Yeah.
on that journey, and
Yeah.
they're like, no, I'd rather go back to Egypt. It's like, dude, man, I want to be back in my prison with three squares a day, and I know what's being fed to me. Well,
Yeah.
knock yourself out. I can't help you anymore. Our engagement is done. That's okay. It's unfortunate for them, but yeah.
Few good men. You
Mm,
can't handle the
I
truth.
can't do the truth. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. I'm
Exactly.
leaving. Sit down.
Mitch, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing, really personal stories that you've been through. But I think it's just so helpful for people to hear those and be encouraged by you can find the grit and resilience to get through those and the faith that really helped you get through all of this, come out even
Yeah.
stronger.
Well, Rob, thanks for the invite. It's been fun being on your podcast. I look forward to hearing the final and editing out all the crazy stuff I said.
The polished
Totally, totally,
version.
totally.
No, I'm going to go for rough and uncut.
Woo! Dangerous. Well, good luck on getting any other podcast guests.
Yeah,
I heard
exactly.
that one, man. That was way too hot potato.
Forget
Well,
that.
great being here, Rob.
All right. Thanks again. See
Cheers.
you soon.